Hello everyone. The topic of which GPU is good enough or just glorified e-waste is something that tends to be discussed sometimes, especially in tech circles, be it if NVIDIA releases a new line of RTX GPUs or if AMD decides to respond to that. But in this video, I'm making the claim that the NVIDIA GeForce GT 720 GPU that I use in my system is still good enough, even for gaming, and I will present arguments to defend my point of view. However, I first want to explain what this GPU is before making my point, so let's begin. So, some background information first. The NVIDIA GeForce GT 720 graphics card was a graphics card released by NVIDIA in 2014 based on the Kepler GPU architecture, and it was released in two VRAM configurations, the lower end 1GB VRAM version and the higher end 2GB VRAM version, with me having the latter option. It was also designed on a 28nm process node and uses PCI Express 2.0 and uses 8 lanes of PCIe, even if the physical connector is designed to be PCIe X16, and for its time was considered a budget graphics card when it was released, a lower end option, and this distinction didn't go away even after a decade. So it was a lower end option that was released in 2014, and it's still a lower end graphics card even today, compared to the RTX 20 series, 30 series, 40 series and onwards, and even the older GTX NVIDIA graphics cards. Still though, even with that fact, for my use case it is a great graphics card that is still good enough even in 2026, and is likely to continue being good enough for the rest of the decade. Even if not slightly longer than that. The games I play are Minecraft, Team Fortress 2, Team Fortress Classic, Kerbal Space Program, and sometimes Tux Racer once in a blue moon when I feel like it. Though in terms of Minecraft, I also sometimes play older versions like InDev, as I liked the Floating Islands generation at the time, but I also play modern versions like 26.1 with the server.jar running on the same hardware, and all of these games run well on the GPU without issue in my experience. Regarding video editing software, I do some light editing in DaVinci Resolve, but it still works even if it's slow to export, assuming that editing is GPU dependent, which I haven't verified. In terms of gaming, I experience smooth frame rates in Minecraft, Team Fortress 2 and Kerbal Space Program, with Team Fortress Classic running exceptionally well. But sometimes in Minecraft I did experience lag spikes, but I do not think it's GPU related, as I do sometimes tend to run it alongside background processes like Brave browser at the same time with like 30 tabs open on an 8GB of RAM system, so that might have something to do with it. There were moments where I did have to close my browser in order to avoid sustained lag in Minecraft, but I think that was due to too much RAM usage, as the task manager does report around 80 to 90% RAM usage on my system, so that is something to consider. Anyways, the graphics card itself is performant when it comes to accelerating the Windows desktop in general and running it smoothly, and even under macOS Ventura 13, it runs nicely, although it is a Metal 3802 GPU, thus running the older version of Metal instead of the newer one. But back to the premise of this video. When I say the NVIDIA GeForce GT 720 GPU is still good enough in 2026, what do I mean by it? What I mean is that the GPU itself still runs well, isn't slow, and does everything I need it to do, and even in areas where there are some weaknesses it manages to overcome them, making it still viable and usable for me. However, would I say it's the best GPU, or as good as the ones released recently? No, and here is why. The feature level of the GPU as reported by DirectX Diagnostic Tools is only at feature level 11_0, which makes it hard, if not impossible, to run many modern games, including Cyberpunk 2077, as well as other titles released around that time frame. Even games like Counter-Strike Global Offensive required lowering settings to run things smoothly, and that is before they made the graphic situation even worse with Counter-Strike 2 update. The feature level issue is also noticeable when trying to run virtual machines. on the newest version of a VMware Workstation Pro. The program will report that the host does not support 3D acceleration by default, but you can still run virtual machines with 3D acceleration, but it requires modifying the .vmx configuration file of every single virtual machine, so that is annoying and something you don't have to do on newer GPUs. So the limitations of the NVIDIA GeForce GT 720 are present and will reveal themselves while you use it. In essence, if you use the GPU long enough, you will find out what you're able to do with it and what you're not able to do with it. And finally, would I still recommend using it despite the limitations? Yes, and here is why. If you don't have a modern system with a powerful enough iGPU, which is something I would consider using, it is a good solution for basic gaming and graphics performance, and if you're using a small form factor PC, like I'm using, the fact it's only single slot wide, as in takes up one PCIe slot instead of 2 or even 3, that modern GPUs can take up, with MPX GPUs even taking up around 4 slots worth of space, is great because space is at a premium, and the more GPU power you can get for the same amount of space, the better. In my experience, this GPU has not failed me or caused me trouble, and another benefit is that because of it I have an HDMI port, instead of needing an HDMI to DisplayPort adapter. So that is great. Also in terms of performance, while the GPU is PCI X8 at PCI Express 2.0, for the longest time I had it in a PCIe slot with only half of the bandwidth, so PCIe X4, and it still performed great. So it is a testament to how well the GPU can do in basic graphics tasks, and even light gaming and video editing, even in less than ideal conditions. Recently, I also fought the Ender Dragon in my Minecraft server while recording it with the ShareX program at the same time, and the performance was great, with little to no lag. For what it's worth, the NVIDIA GeForce GT 720 graphics card is a graphics card that just works and is able to do what I need it to do. For someone like me who has modest graphics processing needs and doesn't require a powerful RTX series GPU or even a GTX series GPU, it works and does the job well for gaming and video editing, so it's good enough. I would probably say that this also applies to the other Kepler-based NVIDIA GPUs, such as the GT 710 or the GT 730, but I haven't tried it yet, so I can't verify it for now. But in conclusion, the NVIDIA GeForce GT 720 graphics card is a graphics card that is still good enough in 2026 and is not e-waste, because it's still capable of doing all the tasks I would need to use a graphics card for. I will be more than happy to continue using it for the time being, but if you have a different mindset or think my take on this is simple-minded or cope, feel free to comment and share your viewpoints and I will reply to it with my own viewpoint. With that being said, this has been Igor MGTOW and Video Games. Like and subscribe and click the bell notifications on YouTube if you enjoyed the video, and follow me on odyssey.com, MGTOW.tv, Twitter, Blue Sky and Rumble. And also join my Discord server, and bye bye. Thanks for watching.